This video will show you how to use the TensorFlow getShape operation to print the static shape of a TensorFlow tensor as a list. First, we import TensorFlow as TF. Next, we print out what version of TensorFlow we are using. We are using TensorFlow 1.10.0. In this example, we'll create a tensor and then get the shape of it that is inferred from the operation that was used to create the tensor. First, we create a tensor full of float 32 numbers pulled from a random uniform probability distribution where the minimum value is 0 and the max value is 1. So we use TensorFlow.random_uniform. The shape is going to be 2 by 4 by 6, min value 0, max value is 1, and the d type is float 32. We assign all of this to the Python variable tf constant ru float. Let's print the tf constant ru float variable to see what we have. We see that it's a tensor. We see that TensorFlow gave it a name. We see that the shape is 2 by 4 by 6 and the data type is float 32, which is exactly how we just defined it. Now that we have our tensor, let's use TensorFlow's getShape operation to see what shape the tensor has. We see that a tensor shape object is returned with a list that has a dimension of 2, dimension of 4, and dimension of 6. We can check the type of what object is being returned if we pass that result into the Python type operation. When we do that, we see that the class is TensorFlow Python framework, tensor_shape, and tensor shape, which is great, but what we want is we want the tensor shape as a Python list. So to get the tensor shape as a Python list, we're going to take our Python variable which contains our tensor. We're going to then do the .getShape operation, and then we're going to do the .as_list operation. So our tensor, we're going to get the shape, which returns a tensor shape object, and then that tensor shape object allows us to use the as_list operation. When we do that, we get back a list that is 2 by 4 by 6, which is exactly how we originally defined it. Lastly, to make sure it's a list, we're going to pass in the whole thing, so our tensor getShape as list, to the Python type operation. This will tell us whether or not it actually is a list. And when we evaluate this, we see that it is a class of list. Perfect. We were able to use the TensorFlow getShape operation to print the static shape of a TensorFlow tensor as a list.